Hello, boys and ghouls. Welcome to episode 137 of Dads from the Crypt. My name is Jason. Tonight, I'm joined by Mondo.
Hi, Jason.
Hi, Mondo.
Hi.
Jody is having some issues at home, some home repair issues.
Okay.
You gotta say toilet issues, man. Say he's having some toilet issues. That way they can be like...
blow up his toilet, and
you could have just left it as Jody's having some problems at home. So
technical difficulties. He might pop up later.
So ominous.
I know. But we have an amazing guest returning. I think last year we were on our year-ender.
Yep.
So it's been a minute. But welcome, Matt, the Storytime guy.
Hello.
Hello. How are you?
Doing good. Happy to be here.
Good.
Happy to have you.
What you been working on since we've seen you last?
Oh, so, okay. There's three things I'm going to bring up. So, I'm working on I'm a writing staff for a manga that's already been greenlit to be a TV show called Entre dos Mundos, Between Two Worlds. The showrunner of it has studied under Jorge Gutierrez, who did Maya and the Three and Book of Life. And he's also learned from one of the producers of Avatar, The Last Airbender. And so under that vein, we're creating a Latin American inspired fantasy world. It's like One Piece, but with Latin mythology. And so Aztec, Maya, Caribbean, South America, Central America, Chicano, all that stuff, music, folktales, mythology, all of that plays a huge role, which is where I came in. Originally, I was just a consultant for the Aztec and folktale stuff. And they're like, hey, if you want to try getting on the writing staff, try getting on the writing staff, So I did it. I got on the writing staff. I wrote my first episode recently for them. We broke down all the season, and I got to write a whole thing by myself.
Congratulations.
And thank you. It was very... I've never done that before, and it was very interesting to go, hey guys, so we all need to know these characters and everything, because we're not gonna, I'm writing chapter 3, and I have to make sure that the way the characters are written and portrayed and everything matches the rest of the season. So it's very interesting to kind of work with other writers to make sure that the entire season is fluid in the characters and everything. So that was very interesting. And the second thing I'm doing is I got greenlit for a comic book. With Black Sands Entertainment. They're a black-owned comic company. I think they're the largest black-owned comic company in the world. They only work with African Americans. However, they reached out to me and hey, we want you to be our first non-black person working with us. They want me to tell the story of Nezahualcóyotl, which, if you're from Mexico, you might recognize that's the name of a city. And the city was named after one of the founders of the Triple Alliance, otherwise known as the Aztec Empire. Real life story is Lion King. He's straight up the real life Lion King. His father, he's a prince. His father was murdered in front of him while he hid in a bush, and he ran for his life, and the evil guy tried to chase him, and he eventually rose up, became a warrior, led his people, and took down the bad guy and became the king. And so he's I did a video on it, and the guy reached out, he's like, can you turn that into a comic book? And I was like, sure. And so I wrote it. He liked it. Signed the contract, so I'm getting cleared to write a series on that. And then my last big thing that relates to this horror, is that I'm going to be co-hosting a panel at Midsummer Scream this year.
Cool.
For those of you that might know me or whatever, last year I didn't co-host. I was a guest on a panel for diversity in horror, and this year we're focusing entirely on Latinos. So this is going to be the world's first ever, because we looked this up, the world's first ever Latinos in horror panel that's ever been at any horror convention ever. And so I'm very, very happy to do this. Shout out to Ivatrice for being the other co-host for this. She's the one that got this together. And she's like, hey, Matt, do you want me to get we'll reach out to people. I'm not going to spoil who's there. I can tell you that if you like Satanic Hispanic and some of the directors from that, stay tuned. And so, yeah, so that's the three things I'm working on right now. I'm tired. I'm exhausted. I'm a full-time substitute teacher, which is stupid. I'm a substitute teacher. I'm only supposed to work 2-3 days, but I've been there every single day for 6 weeks, and I'm tired. But spring break. So this is and this is the beginning of my spring break too. So when you're like, yes, let's do that, I was like, yes, this is a great beginning to just talk about something beautiful and fun. So thank you for letting me vent and share and everything. I love being on this. I love listening to you guys. So it's always great to be here.
Thanks.
So this is coming out on Monday the 8th. So if the world ends when the eclipse happens later, and this is the last podcast you listen to before the rapture or whatever the hell's going to happen after all the earthquakes going on this week, we appreciate you for listening.
Well, if there's a rapture, I'm not going anywhere, so I'll be fine. I'll keep
all
going
of
without
us
you,
are
Jason.
left.
Could be listening to this right as the apocalypse is happening. They're like, yeah, the horseman, he's riding right by. Huh? They knew. They knew.
Okay, so today we're talking Creepshow Season 1, Episode 3. Very solid episode. I'm going to do the plot synopsis from the Wikipedia. So we start off again with a little segment with the creep, and in the background we got the obligatory Night of the Living Dead playing, and the creep is carving pumpkins. Seems like a good time. He's interrupted by the doorbell. He answers the door, and there's a rude trick-or-treater who he proceeds to assault with a knife off-screen. He returns to his pumpkin. The creep finishes up the one he was carving by decorating it with the visitor's severed eyes and teeth and laughs maniacally. Now, as far as the creep segments, this might be my favorite. I really like
Agreed.
this one.
The creep's kind of a jerk, man. Like all the kid wanted was some candy.
The kid was coming.
Yeah, the kid. I would say the kid had it coming. I like this segment for two reasons. A, the eyeballs. I think the teeth.
Mhm.
I was sitting there going, did he take the teeth too? Is that what he put the teeth in there too? That's a little much. But yeah, I love that, and also just to point out, because I love public domain stuff, and the Night of the Living Dead is in the public domain, so they didn't have to pay for that to use that.
Yeah,
and
that's
if you're listening and you love you want to make something or do your own version or whatever, it's in the public domain. So take the Night of the Living Dead and use it whenever you want. It's free to use, and I think that shows the kind of like level of budget this show was like. We want to put a movie on, but we ain't got the money.
I remember when DVDs are getting really popular, and you'd always find Night of the Living Dead on a million different labels for like $2, because people would just mass produce shitty discs and figure, if you pay $2 for it and the quality sucks, like it's $2 and we'll make money on it.
Yeah, speaking of reusing, I just want to give a quick shout out. I went to a horror short film festival last night, put on by Halloween Mixtape. Look him up on Instagram, etc. And just a great time. I love horror shorts. And someone recut the Halloween 3 trailer to be like a James Bond film with Tom Atkins as like James Bond. If you think about it, it'll make sense. But,
I'm in for that.
Yeah, it was really funny. All right. So our first segment is called All Hallows Eve. In the town of Smithville, Pete, Jill, Binky, Bobby, and Pete's little brother, Skeeter, are 5 kids who call themselves the Golden Dragons. On Halloween night, the Golden Dragons gather at the town cemetery, dressed up in costumes, and apparently going trick-or-treating. The quintet stroll throughout the neighborhood, supposedly in search of candy, seemingly paying no mind that the adults in the neighborhood show fear or resentment towards them. As the dragons themselves have been known to unabashedly insult others, burst into houses with the adults doing nothing to stop them, the adults complaining that they do this every year. Their rout reaches its climax when they discover Eddie Hathaway. They abduct him, which his previously insane and broken mother does nothing to prevent. I don't know about obviously, not previously. Well,
she does pull a gun on them.
Right. But she refuses to shoot them because she knows it's not going to do any good, because they're revealed to be ghosts. The Golden Dragons reminisce on their last day, where it is revealed that Eddie and his hoodlum friends locked him in their treehouse and set it on fire as a Halloween prank, causing the Golden Dragons to burn to death. Despite his pleas, it was his friend's idea and that no one was supposed to die. The Golden Dragons tie Eddie to the burned remains of their treehouse and burn him alive, indicating that they have done this to all the other gang members, whose families are the resentful adults they have visited. Having broken their cycle of revenge, the Golden Dragons head to the town cemetery and disappear to the afterlife. Dun dun dun. All right, Matt, why don't you start us off? What did you think of this episode, this segment?
So I like the episode a lot. I think it's really, because I have this opinion about all of the Creepshow episodes. It's good, but I don't think it was ever edited. And I think if it was, it could have been even better, because some of the dialogue, you're like, interesting. That's an interesting way to say what you said, and I don't necessarily think people talk like that. But it does have this campy feel to it. As for the story in general, I think it's really cool. I think if this was a physical story, either a comic book or novella, a short story, I'd love to read it. I think it would be even cooler. with a book where you don't have a budget, so you could just say like, you know, the horrific face and everything. Yeah, I liked it. I liked it a lot. I think it's really cool. The twist is definitely one of those like, we don't want to tell people what the twist is, but we're gonna tell you what the twist is. And I feel like they could have done that a little better, because sometimes it's like looking into the camera going, "We're a ghost," you know, like,
Yeah.
I hope we didn't haunt you today. Like, you're like, yep, I get it. I get it. I get what you're doing. You can stop now. But I liked it. I liked it. I think it was good. The actors were good. Really not much to say. It definitely felt like this shouldn't have been a movie, but this could have been longer. I think there was some things to develop. The Golden Dragons, I don't know if it was a reference to Dungeons & Dragons, because I saw they were playing Dungeons & Dragons.
Yeah.
But to me, I was like, Golden Dragon, it sounds more like a Chinese, like, 80s kung fu gang, you know? Like, I don't know why these kids in the Midwest are calling themselves the Golden Dragons. But yeah, all in all, I liked it. I thought it was good. I thought there was a lot to get from it in terms of, like, if you're an up-and-coming writer, I think it's really important to look at this stuff. And that's what I tell people who love horror and want to be horror filmmakers. Watch Creepshow. They have no budget, and they make something happen. And they make something happen twice every episode. So to me, I'm like, if you're a horror writer, learn how they did these things. Learn how they filmed probably the entire thing in less than a week and probably on one single set, you know? That this is just them like, look, we're going to use what we have. We rented out this street. We're probably paying these people with food. Like, this is like, you know, how we're going to get this done. And I think it's really interesting to show with budgets, with how to kind of allure the audience, like the ghost. Like, you know, the little boy's got like the flames. We don't really show it. Even the fire stunt at the end, if you're really paying attention, they never show the actor next to fire. Whenever they show fire, it's his feet. So it's clearly a fire stunt performer there, so they can use real fire without actually harming the actor. So it's little things like that, the way they film it, the way they just write the story and everything. I'm like, this is how you do, like, boots on the ground filmmaking. And so I really appreciate it just from that. I appreciate watching Creepshow, almost not solely, but that is a big reason I appreciate watching Creepshow, because I'm like, this is genuine horror. This is how you make it. This is like, we ain't got a budget. How do we make this work? So that's what I take away from this.
All right, Mondo.
You know, one thing they do really well in these episodes is they capture that essence of like 80s and 90s DIY horror that is just almost a lost art today, because everything they wanted to be so glossy and so polished. Where this, you can definitely tell, like you said, they didn't have a big budget for it, and they made do with what they had and made what I thought was a very good episode out of it. One of the things when you brought up the dialogue, that was the one glaring thing for me too, is the way the kids are. It wasn't like they were bad actors; they were fine actors. But it reminds me of how WWE is, if you guys are wrestling fans. I know you are. Where they script all the promos, and you can just tell and not all of them. Some people are really good at it, but you can tell sometimes when people are reciting a script, especially when you hear someone talk and you're like, no one talks like that in real life. Like, no one would say those words.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. That was one glaring thing I noticed. Well, I did really like the story. I like the twist. I knew something was going to happen at the end. I remember I'd watched this before, but I could not remember what the twist was. I was like, oh, that's right. And it was a cool twist. And I do like when you brought the fire at the end. I like how, like you said, they did the real fire starter. And then they kind of had that thing where the guy is almost behind the flames, almost like you're not really watching him burn, but you're watching almost him telling you this is how he burned. So so when they show too much of that CGI fire, it really takes me out of stuff. Yeah. CGI fire, there's no fine line. Either it looks right or it's terrible. Yeah. And I like the way they shot this kind of surreal at the end. So yeah, the flames were there, but I think that lack of realism didn't take me out of it at all. But overall, man, this is a fun episode. I'm a fan. So and by the way, like, why do you got to bully kids that play D&D? And I also love the fact that nowadays you go to Target and there's D&D manuals in there, and like nerd culture has become such an acceptable thing, and almost a celebrated thing, and that's really awesome. Because I know when I was growing up and playing D&D, people did not respect that.
So, Mondo, let me ask you: at what point did you notice the twist in this episode?
When I didn't know exactly what the twist was going to be, but when they were talking to Eddie's mother,
okay.
I didn't know exactly, but I realized, I kind of knew before, because they do beat you over the head with it a little bit, like when the comments that the adults are making too.
Yeah.
Very. So I knew right away. I'm like, all right, they're demons or something like that. But I didn't know that. And then it turned. Then when they met the last mom, I'm like, oh yeah, they're killing all the kids that wronged them, which is kind of a contrast from the next episode where this one is everyone's guilty by association, and they were all guilty. When the second one, and we'll get to, it's almost like someone kind of got a pass, even though they should have been guilty by association.
Yeah, I agreed on that one.
I definitely remembered the twist once I saw which one this was, and so I don't remember the first time I watched it when I understood what was going on. So like watching it the whole time, I was kind of like, okay, it's so blatantly obvious that like, oh, we're not really kids, all that. I agree with anything you guys said. I will say, so this was directed by John Harrison, who has done many of these episodes, who did Dark Tales from the Dark Side, yada yada yada. Really accomplished, especially in the anthology horror genre. And what I think this episode nails is atmosphere. It really nails that kind of like Halloween night. You feel the air is almost a little bit thicker. It just feels like a spooky, mystical night. And I think this episode it captures that really, really well. I think that's probably a lot, again, from the directing and kind of the production of it. I like the costumes that each character has. They seem like plausibly something a kid would wear. You probably get off the shelf, but a little bit modified.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they don't do anything that lets you know anything about them. Like their costumes don't dictate their personalities. They're seemingly at random. Did you guys understand why? Like they keep bringing up their costumes, like skeleton again. Like, well, like, and I'm like, does this have to do with anything? Like, what are these?
Well, and they bring up later, and he's like, "Oh man, I like your costume this year," almost as if like, "Hey, they're saying." Hey, yeah, you wear a different costume every year? Because if so, like, man, you went pretty cheap with that devil costume.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I saw that and I was like, what? Why do you guys keep bringing up the costumes? Because I feel like in the script, their costume might have had to do with something, and then they, I guess, didn't have the budget for it, or they're just like, just keep it. I also felt like. Yeah,
with editing, they could have cut that out. They could have cut out that costume banter, and like you said, a good editor probably would have picked up on that. Been like, yeah, you don't. If this isn't gonna play a part in the story. Maybe you just don't need it there.
Yeah, I didn't. I also felt like the devil actor. I felt like a lot of his stuff was improvised. Like I felt like a lot of his lines. He was like, I'm gonna do something else with these lines.
It's hard for actors that young to be really good at improvising. That's something like a muscle you need to build up for a long time. So it just kind of it felt really improvised, but not like a good way per se.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I understand because I think like he was just like, okay, how do I say this in a way that I would say it,
Yeah,
and because it's like,
or because it's such a low budget, they don't give them extra takes to kind of find it.
Yeah, I think like. I think at a certain time they're like, all right, we're gonna do this in 3 takes, get it right, because we're using one of those 3 takes,
Right.
Like it's like, yeah, I as an actor and everything, I've been there and I'm like, man,
yeah, but again, in a 21 minute segment of an anthology episode, it's okay.
No, I'm not bashing the episode. I'm just, that's my critique.
Yeah,
but I enjoy it because I enjoy that Halloween Eve feeling, the vibe.
Yeah. Agreed. This is definitely something I think I could see being redone with a better budget and fitting into VHS, fitting into, a Trick or Treat too. Kind of like I can see this absolutely fitting in anywhere and probably being better if the script was a little better and they had a budget.
They could even go the route of showing them basically a montage of them killing these other kids, and then the showdown is them killing the last one, and they could have the whole dichotomy of who's the real hero here. Obviously, the kids are the heroes.
I mean, It's if it was me doing this story, what I would have done is start the show off with the kids getting murdered, so we know that there's someone murdering these kids, and then have these kids be oblivious that there's like some. That way, when we see people like closing their windows and blinds, we're like, oh shit, they think like someone's murdering there, like these kids are in danger, and kind of play up that aspect that there's like a killer out, instead of like them just like, hey, give us muffins and stuff, like, because it really didn't add anything, and you don't really feel bad because now you're like, you guys are a-holes, like, why are you doing this, like, I don't really feel bad for you that you did this. And also, did the bullies lock their door? Because I didn't see a lock on it. I didn't see anything wrong with the door, and the bullies don't seem to have gone up there, so when the door's not working, I
saw it more so you start the fire at the bottom of the tree, the fire's going to go up and there's no escape unless you want to jump out the window.
Well, again, then what's their prank? Like,
that's what I'm saying.
The prank is straight up arson.
The prank is let's go fucking kill these guys. Like, but I think you can be attributed to dumbass teenagers, right? Thinking they're pulling a prank, not realizing the gravity of their actions.
But yeah, going back to, again, things that they could have done. I love the idea of showing the other murders, and even to save money, they could have done that. You know how it reverts to like comic book form at times? They've done that like for the werewolf transformation.
Yeah, I was gonna say werewolf transformation.
For the other ones, which obviously is the same budget. Okay, fine. They could have easily done like a couple comic book panels of them murdering the kids in the past.
Yeah. And the question is, how come only one kid looks burnt?
Yeah, I mean,
they all die in the fire,
and then suddenly he doesn't look burnt at the end. It's
that's okay though. It's okay. It didn't.
And then don't really see the two brothers connecting that much. He's more into the other chick, and then
and also because he's your brother. Like, why wouldn't they be together from the start?
Yeah.
It was very weird that they like get together. I'm like, why would they get together though? Like, wouldn't they all died together? Wouldn't they all?
And you brought up the editing, and maybe they had a larger idea for the script and had more stuff in, and they had to cut stuff out for time or for money and budgetary reasons.
Yeah. All in all, I liked it. I think it was good. I think it could have been better. Yeah, I think it could have been better, but I can absolutely see someone watching this and going like, yeah, this is a good Halloween one. Throw it on for Halloween.
Yes.
It's never boring. At no point is it boring. It's definitely got heart to it. So yeah, I can't complain too much.
No. All right, let's move on to the next one. The Man in the Suitcase. Justin, a college student returning from a trip home to beg his dad for money, discovers a man painfully squeezed into his suitcase when he turns to his apartment. Justin also discovers that the man is able to produce gold coins when he feels pain upon trying to get him out. Not just produce, but vomit up, essentially, or burp up. Justin is able to give one of the coins to a pawnbroker, which provides him with a modest sum. His ex-girlfriend Carla and roommate Alex discover the man in the suitcase as well. Upon seeing the man, Carla and Alex are initially freaked out, but after discovering his ability to produce gold, they proceed to rope Justin into torturing the unfortunate man for 48 hours in the hopes of amassing a motherload of coins. When the 40 hours are over, Alex and Carla are far too consumed with greed and grievously injured Justin when he tries to stop them. In response, the man calls them naughty and reveals himself to be a monstrous djinn. I'm sure I've seen that right. Djinn, djinn.
It doesn't matter. Djinn, djinn, genie. It's all the same.
Genie. Punishing the greedy duo by producing 2 suitcases. Justin later wakes up in the hospital where he spies a note from the djinn stating that he'll be there if he needs him. At the airport, the djinn is back in human form and places his 2 suitcases on the conveyor belt at the airport. Carla and Alex are heard futilely screaming from within their suitcases. The printed narration states that the suitcases of Carla and Alex are heading towards an uncertain but unpleasant future. Mondo, why don't you start us off?
Oh yeah, I enjoyed this one. I thought it was a kind of a. It starts off almost like it's going to be just a really goofy episode.
Mm-hmm.
When you see him, because the way the man in the suitcase having a conversation with the kid, and then it gets really dark there really fast. It gets really dark, but they still kind of play it tongue in cheek.
Yeah.
And that's I think it's kind of a cool contrast actually. Because they're sitting here torturing this person, and he's spitting up gold coins. They're paying their debts off. They're paying their bills off, and then I really, really, really enjoyed the twist in this. Mm-hmm. Except for the main character, he kind of got off scot-free, but he was 100% complicit in this.
Well,
Like,
not scot-free. He still fell down a thing of stairs and was all busted up. So
yeah, but he's not getting shoved into a suitcase and becoming another Jin or whatever.
Yeah.
So, but he was for 48 hours. He was willing to torture this guy, and I just don't think you should get a pass. I really just don't. Like, he could have said no at any time. He could say, no, we're not going to do this. I think the guy that was in the suitcase, I think he was great.
Oh yeah, I love them.
The way he's kind of, when they're shocking him, he goes, no, I deserve this. It's fine. And it was almost him atoning for his past sins that got him in that suitcase.
I'll let you. I want to bring that up, but like that was confusing to me.
Yeah, I was kind of trying to figure out, like, so what is it like once someone else torments you? Do you get to a certain point where your torment is, like, you pay your debt, almost like you've now suffered enough to get to whatever, to ascend from that torture. But at the very end, when he's going to the airline, it's like they knew him before.
Yeah,
they knew him. He had dozens of suitcases too,
Yes.
which means he didn't do it to just them.
I don't think the people in the suitcases are now Jins. I think they're going off to be tortured or something bad happened. They're not. They don't have the same power that he does. Is my assumption.
Yeah. Overall, though, I thought it was a good segment. I was very happy with this.
I'm Matt.
Yeah. No. I mean, just jumping off of that, my big thing was like, because I think it hints that like he's like, oh, I deserve to blah 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 blah. You know, you're like, oh, like maybe he was cursed to be in there, and then like they were gonna take position and blah blah. But then the ending completely gets rid of all of that. So you're like, was he just messing with them then and like encouraging them to hurt him? In which case, I'm like, is that necessarily fair that he's like, I'm punishing you for being bad, but like I encouraged you the whole way and didn't warn you? Which, like, I guess morality would be the warning of all of this. But yeah, to agree with you, man, like, I was watching this going like, this is a little weird. There's like, how do I say this politely? Like, it was really weird that the few episodes we get with people of color, they were like weed smoking bad people. You know?
I didn't put that together.
I was like, to me, I'm like, it's, I'm not trying to bring that up and everything, but I was like, back in my head, I'm going, the two brown people get murdered, but the white guy is the only one with a conscience. He gets away with this. And I'm like, that's... And just so from a storytelling point of view, he should have got. I don't care he fell down the stairs. I don't care he got hit with a heel or something. It was his idea. He started all of this. He was complicit until he grew a conscience days, possibly weeks after he beat the hell out of this guy. So I'm like, you don't get a pass. And the guy's like, call me for a good time. You know, I'm like,
we're all hanging out and Jason wants to torture a guy. I'm going to say no.
I'm not saying he should get a complete pass. I'm just saying it's not like he got off scot-free. So he could have been punished more, but he did get
should have been 2
flights
flights of stairs.
He kind of did. He went to the hospital. He woke up, and now he can like the way the note made it sound is he can call upon this Jin for favors at this point.
I would have liked if the money he got was all gone, because I mean he already spent most of it, you know. But that would have been nice if.
That's my other thing. If obviously there's a supply and demand thing here, so this is a very rare coin that no one's seen for decades. But now, if like hundreds of these things start showing up, they're going to be worthless in no time.
Well, if it's still gold, though, gold is gold.
And that's my thing too. So like you like I'm a teacher of high school kids. I'm supposed to believe that these high school kids, young college kids, are going out trading gold for cash. Who would do that? Who's like,
I don't know about here in Vegas, man. There are ads all the time on TV for get cash for your gold now because they're preying on degenerate gamblers.
Right.
But I'm like, it's one thing to be like, here's a gold watch.
I definitely, when I was a kid, I was like,
it's another thing to be like,
some gold in and buy some
here's
cards.
gold coins. Here's thousands of gold
I did
coins.
appreciate
The question would be at what point, though, with like, first of all, the IRS is going to want their cut.
Yeah.
So no matter what happens, this kid is getting fucked by the IRS somehow. So
Exactly.
maybe he won't get his.
Aren't we all? I did like the big boy cameo. He's just a fun looking guy. I like to party with him.
Yeah. Oh, that was cool. I said, like this is one of those like I like it, but it definitely felt like they could have done more. It's like, and also I love the practical effects, and I always praise this show for above all else always doing practical effects whenever they can. I didn't like the way the Jin looked. I thought it looked silly and frankly a little dumb. It looked too much like a puppet. The weird dreadlocks going down. I'm like, if this is a Jin, make it look like him. it shouldn't look like a purple dude with dreads, or locks. It shouldn't be that way. Like when I saw him like as the full demon gene, I'm like, you look dumb. Like it's not scary. You just look stupid.
Yeah, but I really did like the practical effects of the guy in the suitcase. That looks cool because obviously I'm sure it's like a mannequin with like someone else's hand coming in, but they pulled off really, really well.
Yeah,
my back's been jacked up, so I'm watching this episode today, and I was like, just like wincing on the couch, like thinking. But part of me is also thinking, like, man, that might stretch my back out. It might feel really good.
To me, it's like I love that they do. Like I said, it's the little practical effects things that make things like this work so well, and it goes to show that you don't need a big budget to do that kind of stuff. You just need a hole in the floor, Well,
you just need Greg Nicotero as your executive producer.
Yes, and what a nice man. I love Greg.
Yeah.
He's such a nice guy.
And that's kind of cool though, because it's very creative use of practical effects. And I think one thing that's lost with modern CGI is back in the day, even if you saw an effect and it wasn't great, it was still fun because you could see the effort that was behind it and the creativity behind it. Where now it's like, hey, my buddy Jim has a computer. He'll make you an explosion.
CGI blood is in fear. I was just watching the show, and they're having like a fight scene. The guy gets shot, and it's CGI blood, and it's slow motion CGI blood, so it's really obvious. And I was like, I hate you so much at this moment for doing this. Why would you do CGI blood?
Well, I watched the new Roadhouse, and I kind of
it's a guilty it's like if it makes sense.
But they do this thing where they they're finding a one stance, and then they morph into another stance, almost with they morph to a different shot, but instead of cutting, they CGI the two things together. It's kind of like in Matrix where they have all the different Neos and stuff, and then they're kind of or all the different Smiths, and they're just kind of you can see all the seams of where they're cutting things together.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna watch that movie because Terry Funk's not in it. Well, he passed away, so he couldn't be in it.
What are they gonna do? CGI Funk?
Yeah, sure. Why not? You get some AI Terry Funk in there.
Oh my god.
Yeah, good episode though. Good episode. Yeah. But as far as practical, I would love to look at all of the CGI monsters they've had, not the CGI, all the monsters they've had in the series, and compare them all, because I think some of them would be really cool, and I think some of them would maybe be towards the bottom of the list. And I would say this genie is at the bottom towards the list, which is crazy because the actor was good. I feel like they could have thrown something on him and made him look cool and given him a longer moment as the genie. Yeah, because he was badass.
It's kind of
maybe just give him a cool outfit or something like that. I don't think they had to go full on CGI, over the top supernatural.
The tornado was cool, and then the giant with the giant. I'm like, man, this is silly.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Well, it's kind of like in It Chapter 2 where they took out Bill Skarsgård and put in the big CGI stuff that was much less scary than just Bill.
Yeah,
than Skarsgård in makeup. That's way scarier than anything CGI can do.
Yeah,
I really enjoy this episode just because for the originality part of it and the zaniness and kind of not going where it's going. It's kind of a little bit of dark humor. You're not sure if it's supposed to be funny. Okay, this has gotten over the absurd of them torturing this guy.
It's very Tales from the Crypt. This could have fit right in with one of the Tales from the Crypt season and totally been fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, they even had the ex-girlfriend or on and off girlfriend sleeping with the other guy. Yeah, there was definitely a lot of. It's college version Tales from the Crypt.
Yeah, if this was Tales from the Crypt, she would have had her titties out 100%.
Yeah.
I guess after this, they'll all be living with some extra baggage.
You know what bothered me about that though? They say at the end in the little captions, the 2 briefcases were loaded on. Why didn't you mention the It feels like they made that comic before they made the movie or the episode, because there's more than those 2 things there, and honestly, they probably did. I mean, that's genuinely probably what happened. They probably made the comics based on. Yeah.
That would be a far-reaching conspiracy because you have to have every TSA agent on board with not checking these bags that are moving and with human voices coming out of them.
Yeah,
look, I can tell you, as someone who was TSA certified for 6 years and worked with the TSA weekly, you could either pay them off or you could just trust that they're not going to pay attention. These guys are jokes. I don't want to know that.
No, Jokers. I mean TSA has always been a
joke. They're worthless. They don't do nothing, man.
So when the government shut down for real that one time and they weren't getting paid, I had to go travel for work all the time, so I had to leave on a Monday. I was at the airport, and dude, all the bags were just flowing through. They didn't stop a single bag to look at it. They didn't give a shit. They weren't looking at the screen. You want to know what? You're not getting paid. I don't blame you. You want to know what? There were no terrorist attacks.
No. I mean, they've done studies. Those guys, they miss it 90% of the time. Like they've like tested them. They're like, oh, I wonder if they're gonna catch the bomb. They don't get it usually, but which is fine because that's not what people do anymore. So
I have gotten pocket knives through in my carry-on, not intentionally, just because I happen to have it in my bag, and then it ends up my destination. I mean, on the way back, I throw it my check luggage, but I'm like, oh, okay, they didn't see this.
There I am with my CPAP, and they're checking it as if it's a bomb every single time.
I saw them try to. They were convinced that a woman in a wheelchair was not really in a wheelchair. And I was like trying to get through the thing quickly, and I'm like, I gotta. This is like, what do you call that when you're like between two airports?
Oh, layover.
Layover. Yeah, I was in a layover, and I had like 15 minutes. I'm like, hurry up! And there was a lady, I'm like a Muslim lady, and she was in a wheelchair. And they're like, we gotta do a random. And I'm like, guys, come on! It's 2 a.m. No one's gonna commit a terrorist at 2 a.m.
20 years ago, Lewis Black made a joke about that because he saw the exact same thing happen, and he goes, "Look, if they're employing old ladies in wheelchairs to blow up planes, they deserve to win. Let them win."
All right.
I do believe though nowadays, if someone tried to start some shit in an airplane, you'd have enough passengers that would just like, no, this ain't happening.
Yeah, I feel like nowadays the tension of like what the bullshit we'll handle is very low now.
Yes,
it's like that one lady that's like, that motherfucker in the back is not a human. Like that meme, like
that. I want to see that as like a horror short.
They're just like, get off the fucking plane right now.
I mean, that's the Twilight Zone episode, William Shatner.
Yeah.
You know the terror at 10,000 feet or whatever. Which
terrorists at 10,000 feet. There you go.
Yeah, it's a lizard.
So this segment, just to bring it back to this segment a little bit. So this was directed by David Bruckner, who always, really brings it. His first film, I always forget this, is The Signal, which is a really good film.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Which one is that? That sounds very, very, very familiar.
That's where it's like there's like a signal that's turning people crazy, like a radio signal or some sort of electric signal, and it's like telling it from 3 different perspectives, and they all kind of come together in the end.
I'm looking.
It might be Australia or something.
Oh, yes, 2007. I remember that.
I haven't seen it since, but it's really good. And again, he's no stranger to short form anthology movies. He's been in 2 VHS films, including the most recent one, the whole wraparound. That was all David Bruckner, the total copy.
And he produced it too, right? Did he produce a new one?
I don't know.
I could be wrong. It's not that big.
Yeah, he was a producer.
Yeah.
He was a producer in 99 and 94. He didn't have any segments.
Oh, okay.
He also did Southbound. Then he did The Ritual, which is criminally underrated. The movie's terrifying.
I wouldn't say it's underrated. It's underappreciated.
Or underappreciated.
Anyone that's seen that, absolutely. I haven't heard anybody really slander it. He also did the new Hellraiser.
Yes, I was getting to that. He did the new Hellraiser, which I had some issues with, but like I thought directing-wise was well done. And then supposedly it's not on IMDb yet, but I've seen it more or less announced that he's going to do a remake of The Blob. So I'm very interested, especially if he takes it more from the 80s one, which is one of my all-time favorite movies. I'll be very curious.
I've met him before. He looks very.
You lucky son of a bitch.
I'm pretty sure someone brought up that David Bruckner, and I'm like, who's David Bruckner? And they're like, dude, David Bruckner. He did that. I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
But sometimes you get.
So yeah, I thought this was a really well directed, another well directed episode. It's maybe a couple small issues, but this one is way more original, I thought, than the first segment. So I really kind of piqued my interest a lot more.
Agreed. When do we ever get genies? In a horror thing, like actual like horror without it being really offensive.
Yeah, I was gonna say without being.
Yeah.
Or were they just like in Twilight Zone where they're like, no, we're not even going to touch that. We're just making him a white guy. We're not even going to like get near any of that. Like, it's just going to be a white guy. Like,
well, it had a genie, but it went in an original way. Like, there was no wishes or anything. Yeah. It's more a tempting genie, which I kind of thought was a cool angle to take. So,
I will say my one complaint, and this is just, I'm sure, was for several reasons. What was the scale of damage to gold? Did they ever determine? Because I see them do different things, and I'm like, can you not get gold the same way twice? Like, why were they torturing him in different ways?
I think the idea was because at first, when they're just kind of hurting him, trying to get him out of the thing, a couple coins pop up. So I guess the more pain he goes through, the more that's all. The more coins he spews forward. So obviously, you'd probably try to find the most efficient way to torture him, which they found was electricity, because they don't have to do any work except for turn a crank.
I saw that, but then like they're pulling out his teeth and stuff, and like they got like 3 coins, and I'm like, that's got to be painful, right? Like,
I think that's just to be fun. I think that's just the episode, like looking at all different ways we can torture this guy.
But I'm like, that's a borderline serial. That's like psychopathic, sociopathic behavior.
Yeah. Speaking of which, who the fuck just says, you know, we should hurt this person next? Let's fucking pull their teeth out.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. That's fucking insane.
Gold came out when they pushed him down the stairs. Do that once a week. That's what I'm gonna do. I like it because you ain't gotta look at him. You can zip it up. You don't have to like do nothing. Just shove him down those stairs.
It would be an interesting conceit where he would only give money if you hurt him in a different way each time. So you have to like keep thinking of more and more. Kind of like
exactly. That would make more sense because this way they just feel like sociopaths. Like
kind of like that movie Brewster's Millions. Do you ever see that? They have to like spend all the money and
I mean, like this is too. Is like I think there's just little things too that would have made this like a little less like because I guess we're supposed to root for them to get murdered, but I'm like, I mean, there's a world where we could have felt pity for them, like we could have seen them go down this rabbit hole of like, oh, they you know they were good intentioned, and then they did bad things but we didn't get that with this. I think they were trying to, but we definitely didn't get that. The moment his roommate got involved, you're like, oh, this guy kicks small dogs.
They could have gone a route somewhat like because at first they convince the main character to do this based on the fact that we can pay off all our debts and pay off our bills. Like they totally could have tied this into 3 fucking kids who just got out of college or are trying to pay off their student loans.
Yeah.
And are just so riddled in debt. And then you'd be like, yeah, you're not doing the right thing, but I understand at least why you're going there. And then it could turn into them just going too far and buying big TVs and shit like that. And that's when it turns.
Yeah, like, hey, we already have enough money, let's let them go. And they're like, no, like, we can do more, you know. I think there was a way to do this in a more nuanced, appreciative way that makes them feel less like scumbags. And I think one of the things from the beginning was to make the guy encourage them. Like, it's okay to hurt me. I want this. Because then they're like, he wants this. I don't feel so bad. But he says that way after they're already busy.
Right. Yes. Because from the jump, they're all of them are just kind of pieces of shit. Yeah. So we don't really see a turn in their or any moral strife, any moral conflict. They're like, well, maybe, but okay, fine. There's like no like internal struggle with it. So yeah, that would have been a little bit deeper. But hey, sometimes got pothead that just gets in the way too deep.
Yeah, they literally convince him in like 3 sentences just to go along with torturing another person. Like I don't really know how I feel about that, but
all right. Any other final thoughts? Okay. We can move to our episode rating. So we do each episode separately. 0 to 5, 5 being the best, 0 being the worst. Matt, what do you give each of these segments?
I would say they're both okay. Are we like on a grand scale, or are we like Creepshow grading?
Grand scale.
Yeah.
Grand scale, I'd say like 2s out of 5s.
Both of them.
Both of them. I say like equally for like, you know, for Creepshow, I would probably give them close to like 3.5s. If we're like judging them on like contextual of the rest of the Creepshow episodes, I would say they're like 3.5 out of 5. Like they're slightly better than the worst ones, you know, or at least they're not in the bottom pack. I think these are good, just not as good as some of the good, because there are some really good episodes in Creepshow, and they're not that. But I don't think these are the worst ones. So yeah, I would say on a Creepshow scale, 3 out of 5. On a like, am I comparing this to like other horror films like First Omen and Smile and Black Phone, then that rating starts dropping a lot lower than a 2. So yeah.
Mondo.
I'm a little bit. I think maybe seven seasons of Tales from the Crypt has kind of softened me up to a lot of this stuff. I think it's a good 3.5. I give each 3.5 because I did find enjoyment in them, and I'm also way more forgiving of the issues when it's in such a small budget and in a short form like this.
Yeah.
And you want, and like, man, the older I get, the more I'm just like, if I had fun watching it, it's at least a 3. If I just slog through it, it's a 2. If I fucking question my life choices that day, then it's a 1.
I'll agree to that one. I'll agree to that one. Yeah. Because I didn't hate, I don't think I've ever watched an episode of the Creepshow and been like, oh God, I gotta watch this shit. Like, I don't think I've ever felt that way.
No. It's never boring, and that's okay.
Might not be
like,
good, but it's entertaining.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to as Joe Bob once said, the biggest crime a horror movie can make is being boring. Doesn't have to be good, but it's got to at least be okay. This is ridiculous, or this is fun, or something like that. And
Godzilla franchise.
Which one? The original? Oh, they're all kind of wacky.
All of them. I will blanket statement that.
I took my daughter to go see a screening of Invasion of the Astro Monsters. I think is what it's called. It's when the Martians come and they take Godzilla and Mothra and just drop there's Rodan and they just drop them on this planet to fight King Ghidorah. And it turns out they're trying to enslave the monsters too. And then in a nutshell, they go down. Then they threaten. They put a monster like on each major country, and threaten them all with destruction if they don't like sign their lives over to the aliens. It's actually kind of fun, but this is a scene when they first drop them off and they scare King Ghidorah away, and they do like this like little dance. They're waving their hands above their head like a little Russian dance almost. And I was like, oh my god, she's gonna hate this. And I'm loving it. I'm having the best time. And afterwards, she's like, that was so much fun. We need to watch all the Godzilla movies. I was like, oh,
the schlock is beautiful.
I love it. I love it so much. Like the goofiness, the rubber suits, like the wrestling moves. Give me all that. It makes me happy.
Yeah. I'm gonna split the difference. I'm going the first episode a 3, and I'm giving the second episode a 4, just more for originality, and that just made it much more entertaining. I give the first one a 3 based on just the cool vibe and the atmosphere for it. But yeah, we already talked about our criticisms. But yeah, I thought these were two fun episodes. Second one's just more original. All right, Mondo, you got a song for us?
I do, and it really doesn't. Well, it kind of has something to do with the first episode, and it's only because I was driving home and listening to this song. It is by a band called Testament from the great state of California, one of the early thrash metal bands that come out of that era, which do not get the respect and credit they deserve. When they talk about the big four and they don't include Testament, I'm like, you guys are fucking stupid. No offense, Anthrax, Testament's a better band, but they are. Anthrax put out 2 good albums. Sorry. They put out Madhouse and they put out Among the Living. And after that, I'm not saying that they never kind of rekindled that, in my opinion, that those 2 original records. But Testament reinvented themselves and they released a little record. And I couldn't remember the year it came out. I know it was their 7th record. I think it came out in 97, maybe 98. And they're always a thrash band. And then in so it was having 97 or 98, because 95 they released Low, which is kind of more hinting towards death metal. And then in 97 they released Demonic, which is just straight death metal. More so, not to the extremes that a lot of the European bands are going, but similar. And then they released like The Gathering after that. And The Gathering it kind of melded the two. And in my opinion, it's one of the best albums of all time. But I'm going with the album Demonic. And there's a song on there. The whole album is not great. I'm not going to say the album's great, but there's an amazing song off this record called The Burning Times, which is actually about burning witches, but it's still about burning someone alive. So it does kind of fit in that first episode. So song of the week is The Burning Time. It's by the band Testament off of the album Demonic. And Chuck Billy, the frontman, is actually a Native American. So it's kind of cool that like they did they have a ballad called Trail of Tears. Obviously based on that. So he does interject a lot of that into his lyrics, which is kind of cool.
Thank you, Mondo.
You're welcome, Jason.
I didn't have time to pull up any horror news since Jody's not here, but there was one interesting thing, and we were talking about this tangentially on the pre-show, is that they just announced there's going to be a new Matrix movie directed by Drew Goddard, who did Cabin in the Woods. So color me interested in that. Hopefully it gets a little past the whole Neo Trinity thing, goes off in somewhere more original. I think again, Matt, I know you're a big fan and everything, so I think there's a lot of places interesting they could go that they haven't.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like legitimately Matrix is probably top 3 favorite movies of all time. Super diehard Matrix fan, love it, love it, love it. I didn't like Matrix 4, and I know people will give crap to Matrix 2 and 3. I like those movies. I didn't think they were as good as the first one, but when you're comparing anything to arguably the greatest action movie of all time, everything's gonna fall short, including its sequels. Having said that, Matrix 4, didn't like it. I get with, like, it's one of those things, no, they're talking about like meta commentary. No, I get that. I get it. it doesn't make it good. It like just because you have some
Maybe,
beautiful theme, it doesn't all of a sudden make the movie not bad.
but did you
There
like
are
the
great
first?
ideas that just don't pan out. It
I
happens all
like
the
the
time.
first half because they're setting up all these possibilities. Like, what if there was a Matrix movie where it's actually all real? Like, there is no Matrix; it's just all in his head.
Well, here's a question: would you guys have taken the red pill or the blue pill?
I'm gonna be that guy and say I want to stay in this world.
Yeah, I'd say
I'm the same way. I'm the same way.
I don't want to sleep on a steel bed and be worried about metal robots murdering me. So
You want to give me a perfect, comfortable life?
Yeah, I get this
Sure.
blue pill, and I have this blissful ignorance I can live the rest of my life with. Like I don't have to take meds for depression anymore. Fuck yeah, give me that blue pill right now.
Yeah. I'm not trying to be a superhero. Like, it's cool. Like, don't get me wrong, the Matrix is a great idea. But the idea of shoving like a 6-inch spike into my skull is not the most comforting thing to me.
And imagine how tiring it would be too. Like you'd just be so tired all the time.
There's no sunlight either. They're all depressed. Like,
Yeah.
no, thank you.
You have to go fight a bunch of people that are super strong, and you're not sleeping very well, probably because you're tired, and or because you're just not feeling good. Like, and I'd be laying there in bed just thinking about life, like, well, this is shitty. So yeah, no, fucking blue pill all the way.
Yeah.
I will say that to bring into a little bit of horror news. So First Omen does come out. It's out. And I suspect that'll have gone good reviews. I liked it. I was also the red carpet.
I saw your pictures. I was super jealous.
I will say that it was pretty cool. It wasn't run very well. I'll say that compared to other red carpets. But moving on from that, Abigail's coming out, which is from Universal Studios. It's going to be their Abigail's like pretty much Dracula's daughter story. So that one's going to be cool. I haven't seen any real marketing for Abigail. Unfortunately,
I've seen a lot.
I saw a trailer. I saw a trailer before last night, Late Night with the Devil.
But yeah, I saw that too.
Yeah, but to
Matt,
me,
Matt, I saw a test screening already, and
you did?
It's good. It's good.
That's what I'm saying. Like, and I hope I get invited. Melissa Barrera's in the main role. We'll see.
I'll say this. I think this is the best role I've seen her in.
I get that. I also respect her a lot in the other movies she's gone. Which, by the way, if you think Melissa Barrera is the most beautiful woman ever, look at her IMDb. She's done very, I'll say, saucy stuff. So it's in. I think it's exclusively in. No, she's in New York. So yeah. So if you like her and you think she's beautiful, she's done saucy stuff. But staying on the horror theme, also The Watchers is going to come out. That's, I think, M. Night Shyamalan's new movie, or at least his daughter's new movie.
Daughter, I think he's producing it. I think, and she's directing it.
And that could go either way. It's M. Night Shyamalan, you know.
It looked good, but that's a trailer, so.
M. Night Shyamalan did some big stinkers. I'm looking at you, The Happening. But he also did, when he came back, he did Devil was okay. I thought, was it The Visitors?
The Visitor was good.
I loved that one. I thought it was awesome. And it was one of the few ones that had the twist was obvious. And I thought it was like, but it's so well done because you want these kids like figure out what happened. And then I really liked Split, but then he made Glass.
Oh God,
Glass is awful. I mean, I was okay. So I haven't seen. Maybe you guys have seen this because I'm looking at the horror movies that have come out this year. I haven't seen Immaculate.
Immaculate is amazing in my opinion. Like if you're like me and love 70s Italian exploitation horror, it checks all those boxes. I think I gave that one a 4.5 on Letterboxd, and I am questioning if it was too low. Right. Now, not everyone had that reaction to it, but that's like my favorite era of horror.
I didn't hear anybody really talk about it. Everyone I heard talk about it was like content creators who like don't do horror, and they're like, it's a great movie. I'm like, I don't really trust your opinion. If I'm being
it's
not to like gatekeep or anything, but like you say every movie you go to is great. I can't really trust certain people. Not you guys. Like we
kind of do.
No, I mean, like to me, it's like I view
we
like
don't get paid. We don't get paid to say that.
Exactly. I think that's the bigger difference. It's like, like Imaginary. I did a thing. I didn't get invited to it, but I did do I did 3 ads for them. Didn't get invited to the red carpet though, but I did 3 ads for Imaginary.
Damn.
Very weird. Very weird. So I didn't get to see that mostly because I don't got any help with my kids, and I got 2 kids, and it's hard to get time off to watch stuff. So I never got to see Imaginary. I do still want to see that. I've heard mixed things about it.
I haven't seen it. Jody said he really liked it.
He's the only person I know that said he actually liked it. I've heard people be like lukewarm.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people like.
Matt, have you seen Late Night with the Devil yet?
I haven't seen it. I'm waiting for it to come to Shudder because I want to watch it with my wife. And I'm like,
cool.
That Shudder, we can watch it on that. When it comes out.
Hold on. I thought your wife doesn't like possession movies.
She doesn't, but she watched the first Omen and she liked it. So I'm hoping that is my wife in the room. No, she's not. So I was just gonna ask her if she would be willing to watch it, but we'll see. I know that she's the first Omen she was willing because she's like a big fan of the original Omen. Like she quotes that movie, I think, more than a healthy person should be quoting the Omen movie. Like I would be like
it's all
she's
for
just,
you kids.
Yeah, like and she's like, it's all for you, and I'm like, why do you?
I use that.
Why?
I use that line all the time. Whenever I do something for my wife, I'm like, "It's all for you. It's all for you."
And I'm just like, okay, that's a slightly unhealthy amount of Omen references to fit in a single day. But yeah, and then Tarot's coming out. I think that one has that's the kid from Spider-Man. Yeah, the Jacob Batalon, the Filipino kid from the Spider-Man movies.
Okay.
He's going to be the main character in that, which is cool. I don't think he's ever been a main character in anything.
No, I like him a lot. I didn't realize he was in that. So at first I was like, this looks very early 2000s.
And then, can I ask your guys' opinion real quick about the Winnie the Pooh verse, whatever they call that?
I have heard the second one is actually decent. Like, I've heard the first one was terrible, and the second one's actually pretty good. I do think, though, they're skating this thin line where you're going to get some people that want to watch it for the parody and don't want a serious horror film. You're going to get the people that I heard the new one goes more serious, and it's kind of dividing people if they want something that dark or they want something goofier. And I'm just like, I don't know. I might watch it. We'll see.
My opinion on this is that because I know they're like, oh, we have a movie pan that is going to be Bambi, and Winnie the Pooh and Peter Pan, blah. And this is my opinion, my genuine opinion about that. Winnie the Pooh made so much money and did so well because it was a novelty. Because people had never really seen that before.
Very quick.
Novelties are good in small doses. The moment novelties become common, they're no longer novelties, which means no one's going to give a shit. Like it's like fan footage. When a few companies were doing it, it was great. And then everyone did it, and everyone's like, this is annoying, and a lot of you guys are doing bad at it. It's shaky camera, I'm getting nauseated, and it kills the whole thing. So I think they need to be really careful about making too much and saturating the market, because they're not the only ones doing this now. Now there's that Mickey's Steamboat Willie horror film, and I'm like, it's going to get to a point where it's going to be like the whole multiverse thing. Multiverse is really cool, and then...
And also, I remember same thing happened with J horror and with Anna. I remember when I was in high school in '99, and I was renting Ninja Scroll and Vampire Hunter D and Blood the Last Vampire. I'm like, these are all cool, and then the floodgates open for anime and let all this bad stuff. I don't want to say it's not all bad; it's just not for me anymore. But let a lot of bad stuff in, and J horror was the same way. Battle Royale and the Takeshi Miike films started getting traction, and the next thing you know, like Best Buy had a section of J horror. Yeah. And we went from being just the cream of the crop coming over, the cream of the crop getting acclaim, to all these just random nonsense bullshit.
I will say this because we are dads. So there's a YouTube channel. I wish I could call it out. I don't remember the name of it, but there's a YouTube channel that does like how to beat XYZ, like how to beat Resident Evil 2's Nemesis, whatever.
I think I've seen that.
And they do a lot of J horrors, and they censor all of it. And I appreciate that because my son has this weird obsession with watching those videos. So like he doesn't like he's 6. He's 6. So he plays Roblox. So a lot of these J horrors are getting turned into Roblox games. So he'll see it on Roblox, and then he'll want to watch the movie, but he doesn't want to sit down and watch the actual movie. So for someone to summarize it in 10, 20 minutes and cut out the blood, because he loves horror and being scared. He hates blood. That's cool. He's terrified of blood. Like blood will immediately like, no, I don't like it. So these YouTube channels, the way they do this is they censor the blood, but they show the things, and so he loves it. He's like diehard J horror fans, like everything J horror. He's like, I love it. I want to watch it. He'll come home, take off his shoes and sign everything, and just start watching the recap J horror stuff. And I'm like, I don't know if I should be like proud or weirded out or both, but like it is interesting to be like,
because kids want to dip their toe, but they're not ready for the whole experience. I remember very vividly as a kid, I was terrified like Freddy Krueger, all that.
Yeah.
Because it's just by all the trailers and stuff. I remember I found a book at my library that was like a picture, not a picture book, but it was like a summary of the first Nightmare on Elm Street. So I had like a couple pictures to give you the visual idea, and then like kind of a very basic description. And I read that over and over and over again.
You
so
don't know
experience.
I did my first horror film. I must have been in fourth grade, so like 7, 8 years old. I rented Child's Play 2, but this was a VHS day. So what I did was I fast forwarded it at like 1.5 speed. So there was no sound. It was the middle of the day, and it was faster than it did. So that was how I was able to overcome my fear of Child's Play, because I was like, I can't watch this, too scary. But if there's no sound and I can still see things, but they're moving fast, I won't get scared. And that was the first time I ever watched like a really dark R-rated horror by myself, was because I was able to do that.
That's awesome. Or again,
my parents were absent. I watched whatever I wanted to watch. It was not good.
I could. I didn't want to. I still get nightmares of Chucky. He's my like scariest. I hate that damn doll. Only character to give me nightmares.
Freddy always terrified me. Freddy still terrifies me, and he's not my favorite character because is one of the first characters to give me that visceral reaction for a horror character. I brought this up before, but like when my daughter was young and I'm horror obsessed, and she wanted to watch horror with me. Like she wanted to watch Nightmare on Elm Street, and I was like, "We can watch it, but I want you to watch the making of first and the special features on the DVD, so you can see how they put the makeup on this guy." And then
that's smart.
I think
that's really smart.
I think it actually helped her because she thought it was. Then she's seen him. She goes, "Oh wow, the makeup looks so cool." And
instead of going, "That's a monster."
Yes.
Smart. That's really smart.
Yeah. But there were definitely movies. I was like, when she wanted to watch, like when I was watching, like I wasn't watching Hellraiser around her. I wasn't watching Texas Chainsaw Massacre. There's definitely fine lines across there.
Yeah, right. Like I took my daughter to see Ghostbusters Afterlife this weekend.
Oh, cool!
Watching all the Ghostbusters, and she really liked it. She was a little scared, like later that night, but she still really enjoyed it. And like I said, we watched all the other ones. So like, yeah, really get to know your kid and what they can and can't handle.
My son, I took him to see. I got invited to an early screening of Frozen Empire. I took him. I was like, I hope he doesn't he's 6. It's good luck watching a 2-hour movie. But he paid attention the whole time. Didn't complain. Didn't ask to leave early. Anything. And he liked it. He was like, I like Ghostbusters. I'm like, all right, cool.
So that's right. Let's go to our Patreon pit for our weekly Would You Rather question. Question of the week is: would you rather have $100,000 or a box of pizza or another comfort food that fits your diet that replaces each slice that you take indefinitely and never runs out?
Hold on. You cannot add that fits your dietary restriction when you didn't do it in the fucking poll. Because I already have my answer thought up, and now you just messed it up by saying that.
It's in the poll. I'm reading it verbatim.
No, it was not originally. Maybe you changed it, Jason, but it was not originally in the poll.
No, okay. Maybe I changed it. I forgot, but it is. I was trying to say, like, if you don't like pizza or like tacos or sushi,
I don't think he means like it'll fit.
Food.
Like it'll be your pizza won't add calories. It's just whatever your dietary. He's trying to be inclusive to everyone in everyone's diets who can't eat pizza.
He wasn't at first, though.
I appreciate your lactose tolerance.
Yeah, my immediate thought was, I'm diabetic. I can't fucking have pizza. So easy, $100,000. And to be fair, it's still $100,000. Just to be honest with you.
A lot of people, so our Patreons chose 80% $100,000, 20% the pizza, but I'm trying to do the math. And if you could eat like a food and then you could save like one meal a day, it's going to be that food. Like how much money over your lifetime would you say it would be more than 100,000?
Or I can take that $100,000 and invest it wisely and not have to work again.
So I would say, are we talking like could I get like a platter of sushi that's like worth like $100? Because then a platter of $100 of sushi every day will quickly stack up to $100K over my lifetime.
I didn't want to say sushi, but I want to say, because I don't eat sushi, but sashimi, because there's no rice. I love sashimi, and that might sway me.
Okay, but it would have to be the exact same type, so you couldn't have like different types. So that
hold on.
I can do rock and roll sushi. It's a little spicy tuna in there. I can eat that every day.
Yeah, now I'm back on the $100,000 side again. Because I want my salmon, I want my yellowtail, I want my eel.
It would have to be the same bite every day.
Yeah, nah, I'm back to $100,000.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay, I thought it was an interesting thought exercise.
Well, it's
a
like, can
friend
I pick something crazy? Like, I want to eat a penguin. Like, I want a penguin every day.
I was
You
gonna
wanna eat a
ask that, but
penguin
I was
every day?
scared. I was scared that you guys would judge me if I was like, "Could I eat like an ostrich?"
Man,
I
so
want
I was working out in California, and where I work in California, up in Lakeside area in San Diego, if you know that area, it's more of like not rural, but it has some rural areas, and they had an ostrich farm up there. So I stopped there. I bought 2 ostrich eggs, like big ass ostrich eggs.
Yep.
I was
Really?
so excited. So I had to stop at one more site for the next night. So I stopped there, put them in the fridge at the hotel, and fucking left them. And this was 6 years ago, and I still think about it because I wanted those goddamn ostrich eggs.
How much does an ostrich egg go for?
I don't know now, but in 2000, I think it was 2019 when I was out there, because it was a little bit before the pandemic. I think it was like $5 an egg. It wasn't anything
Okay.
crazy.
Because I see these TikToks where they take like the huge ostrich egg and they do like these crazy egg dishes with them.
I had ostrich egg once when I was in London.
How was it?
It tasted like an egg. I think it was more the experience. It was just like, I was like, I paid like, I think like, it was at a farmer's market, so I think I paid some outrageous number, like 15, 20 pounds, you know, for like an egg with some other stuff. And I'm just like, this is garbage. This wasn't worth it.
There's an episode where they're giving Gordon Ramsay shit about the food in England. And he goes, "We have 2 Michelin star restaurants." And the guy who's talking to the chef goes, "Yeah, and what kind of food do they serve?" And he goes, "French."
I think as a whole, Europe is just. I don't like most of the food. I see Italian, French. I'm just like, hey, y'all, none of y'all use spices, so you can shush.
Well, going to Germany a few times for work, they do have some cool food out there. Like, but what happens is all their meals are like, here's a fucking pound of meat and a pound of potatoes, and for dessert you can have cigarettes. That's kind of how it is in Europe. Everyone's smoked in Europe still. Yeah, and beer, and the beer is cheaper than water. But I love they had some great pork dishes. Like I love schnitzel. I love pork knuckle, which is like a pork foot. Out of this world, amazing. But by the time I got back to the States, I was like, give me a fucking salad and some broccoli and some vegetables and a steak, because there isn't a whole lot of beef out there. It's a lot of pork, mostly pork and chicken and fish.
The variety is out the window too. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner is potato and beef. It's
there was a Thai restaurant in a small town that our company's from. It was good. It was good ass Thai food. And there was a Mexican restaurant there called Jalapenos. Fucking hideous. Fucking hideous. Like, it wasn't even like how a white person would imagine like traditional Mexican food is. It's like someone went to Taco Bell once when they're in the United States and goes, "I'm gonna recreate this in Germany." It was fucking terrible.
The Mexican pizza I had when I was in London it had jalapenos, corn, and pineapples on it, and I was like, "Who the fuck told you guys that this is Mexican?" I was like, "I get the corn jalapenos. Hey, we wouldn't put corn in jalapenos, but we wouldn't put corn on our pizzas. First off, secondly, pineapples. I love pineapples on a pizza, but Mexicans, we never put pineapple on anything. I don't think we know it exists."
I imagine Hawaiians, right? Like, we don't put fucking pineapple on pizza. I do love, but pineapple and jalapeno together on a pizza with the meat.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Bacon. There's a good Hawaiian place in Gardena. If you're in the Los Angeles area, there's a great Hawaiian place. I think it's like Aloha Pizza. It's their Hawaiian pizza is so good. Garlic butter crusty. Oh, I'm gonna go get that tomorrow.
Man, as a guy who found out I was diabetic, I haven't had bread.
I'm sorry. My condolences.
In almost a year.
Bread or
bread, any form of bread, pasta. I went the extreme side of dealing with it and went as 100% low carb. I have a beer every now and again. That's it. No other carbs.
My condolences.
It's all good.
I can't give it up. I'll take my metformin and deal with it.
You know what though, man? It's one of those things when you know like your health's going to be better for giving it up, and like you have a legit health concern, it makes it way easier mentally to do that. Because if you just told me, "Hey, you're 100% healthy, but you had to give up pizza," I'd be like, "Fuck you, no." That's the worst thing ever.
Doing that.
Yeah, but I have found there's a lot of low carb alternatives now. The difference is a loaf of bread costs $3. A loaf of low carb bread costs $9. So
I've tried a lot of the low carb keto stuff. It just does not taste good.
Yeah, same. That's the reason I don't eat healthier. I'm just like this shit.
I've tried lots of California crust pizzas, and they're just not.
The Colorado crust is bullshit, and it's not even low carb. Like the good low carb pizza, they make the crust. Like I make it out of almond flour and cheese. Yeah.
Okay, send me that recipe. I want to try that.
No. Yeah, probably not, because now you're disparaging keto food, so probably not going to send it to you, Jason. Sorry.
All right. Real quick, just to wrap up, we had a couple comments from our patrons. Our friend Alyssa said, I'll take the 100,000 because I'm poor. But our friend Andy said, give me all the foods.
Real fast, our friend Alyssa, too, school teacher. Teachers should not be poor.
Yes. Yes.
As a substitute teacher, I agree.
My fucking aunt, who I will call out by name, my Aunt Irma, that's her real name. So she's not listening to this. That's fine. She posted something on Facebook that was like, we need to put a bill in place, and if you're over 55, you shouldn't have to pay for your tax money shouldn't go for schools because we don't have kids in school. I'm like, who the fuck is supposed to run the country then in 20 years?
Oh my God.
Aunt Irma?
Does that mean people under the age of 55 don't have to pay for people's retirement?
Yeah,
that'll save us some money.
Good point.
Yeah,
good point.
I'll trade that. If you guys don't pay for school, I won't pay for your retirement. I feel like that's a fair trade.
Okay.
This is why I kind of got off Facebook, because I'm like, I just get so mad at people. I was like, how does your brain work this way? I just want to see cute pictures of dogs. Like, that's all I want.
All right. Let's do some quick dad advice and wrap up this Friday edition. Again, teacher appreciation. A lot of people are either going on spring break or just finishing spring break, and as much as our kids need a break, the teachers, they're the real ones that need a fucking break. So I can't thank them and appreciate them enough, especially as a father with a kid with special needs. They're amazing people in the world.
Well, my good friend Lexi has been a chemistry teacher for a long time. And one of the things that she always said that always stuck with me is that one of the most disparaging things for her was that when she fails a child or gives them a low grade because they don't do any work, and she gives them every effort to get their work done, and the parent calls and goes, "You failed my child. Why did you fail my child?" And like, no, I didn't fail your child. Your child didn't put the effort in to earn a higher grade. Yeah. And like I said, be nice to your teacher. Their teachers are trying, man. Like I had some bad teachers, and I had some teachers that changed my life. And there's going to be always that dichotomy. But, I never, except for one. I failed one class in high school. I graduated with almost a 4.0. But I failed one class, English 3 AP, because Miss Schreiner, that's her real name too. We're just dropping real names on the podcast this week. She might have legit lived under a bridge. I'm not quite sure. As a troll, she looked like a troll. She probably had a feud with 3 goats. I don't know. But
that's
she,
sick reference, bro.
Yeah, that's the only class I failed. So I did have one, but for the most part, though, like it's usually not the teacher's fault while you're failing. Unless the whole class is failing, then maybe it's the teacher's fault. But usually it's because your kid didn't do the work, and you should approach that conversation with the teacher with some understanding and some empathy, knowing that they're doing their best.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, as a teacher nowadays, everything's online. Everything's done through we don't give worksheets anymore or anything. Everything's online. So for kids to be like, well, okay, well then you had the doc, so you must have done it. So just resend it. Oh, I deleted it. Sure you did. How about this? You could do it today. I'll give you a grade letter off. To me, I love these students, man. They're so sweet. They're kind. I love seeing them. They love seeing me. I love being a teacher. Even as a substitute teacher, I love being a teacher because I feel like I can impact their lives so much. And as a substitute teacher, I get to talk about things that a teacher can't usually, like give them life experience and give them life advice,
Yeah.
And really help them and stuff. And I know that I can able to I was gonna say touch these kids, but I feel like phrasing on that one. But reach
touch
out
their
to these, yeah.
My
change their lives. Exactly.
Yeah, my wife had never seen School Hard Rock, so I showed that to her in that line where he says, "Your kids touched me, and I touched them." Kills me every time. I think of that line a lot.
But it's true though. It's like you're really able to get in these kids' lives, and when they say they're like, "Hey, what's up?" And it's just and I've had kids go to me and be like, "Hey, my dad's really smart and he got his master's degree." I'm like, "Oh, that's cool." And he gaslights us though, and she'll list off all the things he does to gaslight them. I'm like, holy shit! And it's like, is he gaslighting us because he's smart? And I'm like, no, dumb people can gaslight you too.
Yeah.
Gaslighting.
He's gaslighting you because he kind of sucks.
Yeah, is it something just smart people do?
Start saying my kids great. Well, like when I started sending my kids to grade school, it occurred to me like, wait, they're like completely under the influence of these other people that I have obviously have great trust in. But it's like even when they're with me, they're playing, they're doing something else. Like they're not paying attention to me. They pay more attention to the school teacher than they do me, or have probably more direct contact on a daily basis some days.
Yeah.
That's what that's what I say, because my wife is a nurse for also pediatrics, so like we both we sometimes deal with the same kids. She'll have teenagers show up and they'll be like, she'll be like, oh, my husband works at your school, and they're like, who is it? She's like, oh, Mr. Torres, and they're like, oh, I know him. So she'll be like, and she'll just be like, yeah, talk shit about you, it's like it's so we both deal with this, so we can both see, like, when like I'll say some comment on some video, they'll be like, yeah, I'm doing this for my kid. I'm like, hey, outside looking in, not a smart thing to do. Like, I can tell you, like, when you're like, oh, I don't let my kid do any of these things, like, they're not allowed to have social media. I'm like, that's cool, but you're making them a pariah for the rest of their classmates, and that's gonna push them apart from making friends, because nowadays you have to have social media. Like, it's hard, and I get it, but at the same time, everyone has social media. So if you're gonna, like, ground your child for having social media, that means that they will have zero communication with their friends. Nobody texts each other anymore.
Right.
No, like, so yeah.
Maybe the better idea is just be more involved in the social media usage and monitor it. Let them have that freedom, but I'm also going to keep an eye, just to, not because I don't trust you, because there are a lot of predators out there and bad people out there that can try to take
I'm going to follow your account, but I will not comment, and I want to like your stuff.
Yeah, it's about being accountable. And they actually, like, my daughter's on Facebook Messenger, like a kid's version of Facebook Messenger. So
is that where you can approve, like, who's allowed to talk to her?
Yes,
that's awesome.
Exactly. So I can see all her conversations. I can see, and that's great because she can talk to her cousins and, like, the friends, like, during spring break, so they don't, like, lose connection or, like, over other breaks. So it's, as long as you're, like, paying attention and being actively involved, it's a good thing.
Yeah. It's helpful. There's so many things that kids can use for the internet and how they connect to the world and to cultures and memes. Like, these kids love memes, man. Like, this is part of their, like, psych. And so to take that away, to take the phones away and stuff, I'm like, I've only ever seen it in kids who feel already outcast. It doesn't usually help.
Well, and going back to trusting your teachers, like you say, you obviously, like, if I'm a parent, I have one child, you deal with 30 kids a day or more. And I think you guys teachers are a lot more in touch with modern kids and their struggles and their day-to-day lives, and a lot of parents are, because obviously when you're a parent, your kid's trying to almost, let's be honest, your kids almost put on a show for you at times because they want to please you.
Absolutely,
they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you this. I'll get a little personal with my work life. So there was one girl that made a joke, middle school kids, to give you some idea. Middle school kids, she had pneumonia. Then she made a joke to her friend in class that she can't smoke weed anymore. But it wasn't a joke like someone who'd never smoked weed. It was someone who has smoked weed and was like, I can't smoke. And I was like, hey, serious conversation. Do not smoke weed if you just had pneumonia. Like, you could die. And she's like, oh, like, yeah, I get it. And I'm like, no, like, really understand this. Pneumonia destroys your lungs. Your lungs are repairing right now. Weed is inhaling thick smoke into your lungs, which is making it weaker. You could literally collapse your lungs. Don't smoke weed. And then her friend joked, like, she's like, well, I guess you just got to stick to drinking alcohol. And I'm like, okay, we're just going to have this conversation. I was like, you guys clearly are at this point where you're doing these things, So I'm like, so let me explain this to you. And I was like, ladies, like, be very careful with who you drink with. Like, there are people who are looking out for you for when you drink too much, and they will be there to harm you, So I'm explaining all of this stuff to them, right? Because I'm like, look, if your parents are going to explain this to you, which clearly I was reading the room, none of these kids knew this stuff, and they're already drinking and smoking, then I'm like, let me give you this advice, because this is stuff you got to know. And if you're drinking at 15 or 14 or 13, whatever, you have to know your limits. You have to know these things. You have to be careful with harder liquors,
where are you getting it from?
Exactly. I was like, don't just trust it just because there's, like, if there's pre-poured alcohol, don't take it. Don't take pre-poured alcohol, especially if it's at a party. You don't know who the person is. Like, be careful, know your limits, yada, 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 And so one of the students was recording me the whole time, and I didn't know that.
Oh, no.
And so then so she posted that to Instagram. Her father saw it, posted it to Facebook, and tagged the school. So the next day, the principal was like, hey, Matt, what's this? And so I told her, I was straight up. I was like, look, this is how this conversation went, blah, blah, blah. And she said, okay. And everything was good. Because at the end of the day, I was giving them advice that they needed to hear. And B, the more importantly, what she threw this in the face, she goes, I would just like to remind you and your child that you cannot record anyone, let alone a teacher, without their knowledge. She's like, that's grounds for suspension. She's like, so we're not going to suspend your daughter, but let her know that she can't do this.
Right.
And so, like, it was one of those things of, like, that could have ended really badly. But I'm glad that the principal saw and had no foresight to be like, look, his intentions are innocent. They're pure. I'm trying to help these students because, like the guy's like, my daughter doesn't drink. I'm like, your daughter, I've smelled alcohol on her breath, dude. Like, she's pre-gamed at 7 a.m. and she's 7th grade. So, like, you having this idea that she is like the man, I'm like, bro, your daughter's she's already past that, you know? So, and that's something as teachers we have to kind of navigate and deal with students, because we'll have pregnant students and students with all these things, and it's just like, it's hard to do this stuff, and getting paid the way you get paid, you're like, it makes it think like, oh damn, like, I'm exhausted. I'm a substitute teacher. I've been substituting full time for a teacher, but I can tell you, man, like, it's still exhausting, and I don't have to go home and, deal with the grades and stuff, but, like, to deal with these kids, to have certain classes where, like, I dread my second period, because those kids are the devil. They're what's that movie, The Late Night with the Devil? The second period with the devil. Those children are awful, and I don't like them. They're the worst. They don't respect me. They don't listen to me. I tell them every period, don't eat food in my class. Okay. What are you doing? I'm not doing nothing. I was just moving the bag.
I can fucking hear you.
Yeah, like, I hear you. And the kids, they're the dumbest kids on the planet too, because, like, the kids will do this. They'll be doing something they shouldn't on their phone, something, and they'll do this. And they'll keep looking back, and they just keep looking back at me, and I'm like, I see you, brother. I see you. I see you looking at me. People don't look at me when they're not doing something wrong. Like, this is so obvious, man. All in all, I wouldn't trade it for the world, though. I love it. I love being a teacher, substitute teacher, because it's really such a wonderful thing.
So I think our bottom line is support your teachers. Give them the same empathy they're giving you and giving their kids, and understand. You know what? I'm not saying your kid sucks, but your kid might suck a little bit, and that might be why they're getting bad grades.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. I'll say it. If your kid sucks, sometimes they do. Get mad at your kid and not me. I didn't do nothing. I just rate it.
Sometimes maybe you suck as a parent and aren't involved enough.
Honestly,
or maybe your child has undiagnosed, learning issues that need
no, absolutely. That's another thing too. That parents will refuse to take their kids to get diagnosed with stuff. Like, there's kids where they'll just stare, and the other kids are like, "Why do you have a staring problem?" Like, they might have an undiagnosed issue. Like, don't like be too harsh on them. And then one of the girls, like, looking up like certain things, she's like, "Oh, I think he does have like undiagnosed issues." And I'm like, "Yeah, so be nicer." And I've always seen they're usually pretty nice about it.
That's cool.
They get aggressive when they're like, "Why are you doing this?" Because I think it's like malevolent, But I think once they realize, like, oh, it's not evil. He's not being mean. He's not being creepy. He just doesn't understand social.
What he does. It's not. Yeah. There's no ill intention there.
And then once they do that, then they're like, it's all chill. So I genuinely think the next generation is very, very kind souls.
I will say, for my son who is in the special ed classroom, he is so supported and loved by the other kids in all the other classrooms and everything. Like, every time I go pick him up,
That's
kids
cool.
younger and older are all like, "Oh, hey, Elliot," talking to him up.
It's
so amazing.
I've taught special education to SPED and learning, and I can tell you they're all good kids. They all have good hearts. They all have good kids. They just, certain social cues they don't pick up, It's and you got to be gentle and kind with them, and
exactly.
It's, and the thing I always get told is to, like, don't treat them like they're less than human. Don't treat them like they're like babies. They're like, they understand, but you need to treat them like they understand, because otherwise, if you're like, "Don't do that, Billy," like, they get it. They understand they're condescending to you, subconsciously or not. So I've had that. My favorite thing was there was a black kid that had an afro. He grew out his afro one day, and all the other kids who weren't black were like trying to touch his afro, and he's like, "Stop." I'm like, they don't have the social cue to know, like, to not do that. They're like, walk up. So all the kids, every excuse they could to get up out of their seats and walk by him, they just walk by, and I'm like standing next to him, "Don't do that. Don't do that." And he's like, "Tell them to stop." I'm like, "I'm trying, man."
It's a sensory thing. All right. Well, again, hats off to any and all teachers out there. Hope you have a wonderful spring break and come back nice and relaxed and ready to tackle the rest of the year. Well, that wraps up another episode. Matt, as always, pleasure to have you. Tell everyone where they can find you.
Yeah, so I'm at the Storytime Guy. You can find me on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. It's at the Storytime Guy. I do folktales, mythology, Aztec mythology. I think I'm like one of the biggest people that does Aztec mythology.
Mhm.
I don't know anyone else. I had a comment go like, I don't like this guy. Does anyone else do Aztec mythology? And everyone's like, no, I don't really like him either, but he's the only one that does it, so I still follow him. Which I'll take as a, I'll take it. I'll take it. But
How
no,
would
seriously,
someone
yeah.
not like you? You're like the nicest guy in your videos too. Like
I
it's
know.
awesome.
I have no idea, but it's because I agree. I'm the nicest freaking guy in my so follow me on the Storytelling Guide. Talk about all sorts of fun stuff, horror, Latino representation, pop culture, all that stuff. So I'm just as likely to talk about H.P. Lovecraft as I am to talk about Hello Kitty or anything random that I want to talk about. That's so
Love
yeah.
it.
So before you leave, I have to ask you one pro wrestling question.
Oh,
Yes,
It's
WrestleMania.
I refuse to watch WrestleMania. I'm that guy. I'll tell you why. Like the whole thing with Vince McMahon has soured me so much.
That's
that is
fair.
really,
That's fair, though.
that I really
That's fair.
like, and I know that a lot of those people are out of the company now. But I'm still like, until that company decides to really do their own investigation, I really can't support it. I'm not knocking anybody else to support. That's just me. And that's
AEW. There you go. AEW.
I love AEW, but you know what's happening? I think it's tonight or tomorrow is Blue Demon versus Brian Danielson at Arena Mexico for CMLL.
Ooh, I didn't know that.
That's what I'm most excited for this week. I'm just gonna say.
See,
But like,
I'm with you on that. I love AEW. I got to go to one of their events and meet all of them, and
I saw you posted that. I was fucking jealous.
Hard, bro. I was talking to Cesaro about fairy tales and his favorite fairy tales that he teaches his kids. It was the craziest thing. He's a huge fairy tale nerd. Fairy tale nerd. I was like, this is crazy. I grew up idolizing you, dude. Yeah. So they're all great. They're all wonderful. Andrea El Idolo, all that great. Thunder Rose, me and her talk all the time because she's wonderful. Yeah, AEW is great. Go watch it.
Penta, Commander Phoenix, and now they have the tie-in with CMLL where Mystico and was Volador over? I don't remember. I can't remember all the guys that came over.
AAA too. So AAA is I think the oldest wrestling company in history. I think it's over 100 years old. And they have a thing with them. The Viking, or El Vikingo. El Hijo de Vikingo. Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, so they have him. He's great. It's crazy that.
I saw him live. We saw him a couple times at an independent show down here when he wrestled El Gringo Loco, who's this chubby white guy who wrestles for GCW, but is unbelievably talented. And the stuff he can do just blows me away. Like how this guy who doesn't look super athletic can do these things. He's awesome. And seeing El Vikingo live was a different experience. And not to keep boring Jason with pro wrestling, because Jason's like, it's time to wrap up. Fuck pro wrestling.
He's like,
I'm like, well, no, did you just out my wrestling identity as El Gringo?
El Gringo Blanco?
Do you remember El Generico?
Of course.
Yeah,
but he disappeared. Like no one knows what happened to him. Like he just disappeared one day.
The most beautiful, it kind of racist, but it was totally allowable because it was just a white dude doing the worst Mexican accent.
Yes.
And dressing up like a luchador, and he was very clearly a whitest dude, but he had the thickest, fakest Mexican accent, and I loved him to death.
Pale. He didn't even try to get a tan. Like that's what I love about it. He totally just leaned into
for the
fact that everyone knows I'm not a Mexican
guy.
luchador.
Love him.
It was pretty awesome. Yeah, me too. Happy WrestleMania weekend. Anybody that celebrates. I just love all the independent shows that are based around WrestleMania and seeing all the cool independent stars. But yeah, I'm a big AEW fan and big fan of but I will say, and I'll leave us at this, but if you're not a fan of pro wrestling, it's hard to get into American wrestling sometimes because it's very story driven. It's hard to get in Japanese wrestling because it's a very specific style. But I feel like you can show anyone a good lucha match and they're gonna have fun watching it because it's kind of like we talk about. It's never boring.
And I would also argue, half the time the female wrestlers, you're not gonna turn away from that. Just to be, my wife's in the other room. I have to be very careful how I word this. They got the booties, is what I'm just gonna say. They got them, and they don't got competition in that department.
They have Godzilla levels of booty. It's fine.
Yeah, it's crazy. Can they wrestle? Sometimes. And you'll get the wrestles, and then you get the female luchadors, and it's a mix of both, and you won't turn away. AAA also uploads a lot of their matches on YouTube, so check that stuff out too if you are trying to get into luchador matches, because they entertainment first, way above sports. So it's still cool, but they're no storyline, nothing. Just we're gonna entertain you. So
well, they do have storylines, but the main they do like the whole Dr. Wagner unmasking. I have a Dr. Wagner mask. Oh, it's gone. I don't know where my Dr. Wagner mask is. Son of a bitch. It was on my wall back here. Maybe this, but God damn it. Never mind. I'm just gonna digress. But yeah, but I know what you mean. It's a lot of times as matches, there's action and fun. And Arena Mexico is actually kind of a tourist destination in Mexico where they do buses. Well, the bus of tourists from the hotels to Arena Mexico to go watch lucha because lucha is just kind of a Mexican staple. Like they did a poll a couple years ago about who the most famous Mexicans of all time were, and El Santo was like number 3 or 4 on there.
He fought werewolves. Of course, he's going to be top. He fought werewolves. Dude, there's a whole genre, like literally hundreds of movies of luchadors fighting horror monsters. That's awesome. It's crazy to me it hasn't been picked back up because I'm like, that's a good genre to pick back up nowadays. I think we need more of it. And like, because horror for Mexicans, I mean, our first ever Mexican produced film was La Llorona. It's the first ever horror movie ever made back in 1920 something from Mexico. And it's been a staple. Dracula en Español was huge in Mexico. So horror has been a staple of Mexicans because, you know.
If I ever do a pro wrestling podcast, I'm definitely going to give you a holler and be like, hey, let's talk pro wrestling because Jason's just like, fuck these guys. I want to.
There he goes. Sorry, you cut out for a sec.
I was saying, Jason, if I ever do a pro wrestling podcast, you're the first person I'm going to call.
Yeah, I'll
be the last.
I love this. Yeah.
But Jason, we love the beard, though. Your beard would look so sick under a luchador mask, though.
It seems like I feel like I get very sweaty under that. I mean, I sweat
very thin. Well,
all the time, but
you're bald, though. You're bald. Well, you have a buzz.
He could be El Pelón Blanco.
All right, let's up. Next week, see, I got my end. Next week, we will be reviewing the next Creepshow episode with the segment The Companion and Lydia Lane's Better Half. We appreciate everyone for listening. We would really appreciate if you give us a rating review on iTunes, a rating on Spotify. Check out our YouTube for videos of these podcasts, and check us out on Dads from the Crypt Talk on TikTok. With that, we thank you for listening to Dads from the Crypt.
Goodbye. Good night.
Follow Dads from the Crypt on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, or I will follow you to the grave. No, seriously, you really should watch. But be careful what you ask for. You may get it.